Yeah, and I suppose there's more to life than the Northern Hemisphere, you know. I mean, there is a thriving scene, not only here in Brisbane, but, you know, Australia, for a live scene, for a band scene. There's some good music. It's always come out of Australia. You know, I think you're only getting the tip of the iceberg of the stuff that's available overseas. You know, I've continually tried to get my physical product available in the UK. I have physical product available in Europe, but you know, it's still available. If people want to find us, they can find us. You know, it's not that hard. You know, we're here. We're just a long way away from everybody.
Cool. But like you said, the world's getting smaller and smaller by the day, isn't it?
That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just before you go, like, just a question for you, Blair. Do you think, you know, something like Brisbane Sounds is, you know, really... How do you think that benefits the Brisbane music industry?
It's about getting everyone to work together for that common goal. Okay, so, you know, we need that to be shining a light to people who maybe don't even like music or that don't know about Brisbane bands. So it's about trying to get it out to them, that passion, that enthusiasm for them to go, oh yeah, you know, I should be getting into Brisbane music, you know, because it is going so well. There's all these success stories, you know, like I don't think there's ever been a better time when there's been more Brisbane bands living overseas making money out of their art, from Anhorse to Violent Soho to the Middle East, I guess, from Townsville as well, but it's another Queensland band. You know, I can't think of Australian bands off the top of my head, but Brisbane ones come to mind straight away. So,
do you think having bands like the Go-Betweens and the Saints and, you know, really, you know, sort of really ingrained into the minds of everyone, bands like that coming from Brisbane, do you think that's really beneficial to the current music industry it is nowadays, or...?
They definitely, everyone always brings it up in a press release or anything like that, the Go-Betweens, Powderfinger, you know, all those kind of bands. Yeah, I mean, I guess you have to quote those. You know, every other music city, I guess, around the world does that as well. I don't know, what do you think about that? Like,
I think it's funny that you mentioned those two bands, because it always seems to be the same bands that get mentioned, you know, and I think it's obviously a positive, but it also can be a negative, because everybody keeps on thinking that it's about the Go-Betweens, it's about the Saints, it's about Savage Garden, it's you know, they're the tip of the iceberg, you know, and they're the lucky ones that got through. You know, there's so much more underneath that scene that you don't get to hear, and you know, it's with Brisbane Sounds, and I'm also part of a project called Sounds Like Brisbane, that we're, you know, even though they're kind of two different projects, they're still exactly the same goal, and it's about community, you know, and it's about building a hub for the community that can have its spokes go off, and at least someone in this day that can Google the word Brisbane and it will come up with either Brisbane Sound or Sounds Like Brisbane before it will come up with +1 Records. But it gives everybody an opportunity and a house to go to, and then they can pick and choose what's out there. I mean, I've always lived on the adage that good music doesn't sell. You know, it's the shit music out there that sells. You know, and we're the 1%ers. You know, I mean, there is money out there. I mean, not all music that sells is bad. There are still good bands that are getting out there. You know, and it's important to keep on trying. You know, there is more out there than just your Australia's Got Talent or whatever those ready-made shows are that are available out there.
And you know, you say that as well about, I'm just thinking about touring, for instance. Like, I just wish a few more people would know about the great things that, you know, Texas Tea and Vegas Kings, two Brisbane bands who have been on Brisbane Sounds before, consistently going back to Europe every year, you know, and touring and getting the name out there, playing festivals as well. And, you know, that's another thing that we need Brisbane people to be hearing about, that, you know, these are the bands that are actually touring. They're not going over to the UK and playing to a room full of Australians, you know, like so many Australian bands when they get to the point in Australia, because, you know, there's 400,000 Australians that live in the UK, 100,000 in London and whatnot. I've been to those gigs before, and you can't find the English person, you know, and it's sort of a case of...
Well, what's the point?
Yeah, like, you know, there's that's something anyway to think about, kind of thing, you know, there's all those...
Yeah. I mean, it's funny you mentioned the Go-Betweens. I've got a new album coming out next month by one of my bands, and it's a Robert Forster production. I mean, we would be mad not to push the Go-Between angle. because that's what everybody thinks. Brisbane is about the go-betweens. They've just named a bridge over the river, the go-between bridge. You know, I mean, there's not many other cities. I don't think you've got a Beatles bridge or an Oasis Park, or you know what I mean. I mean, that's how revered they are. That at least the government acknowledges that there has been some talent. And Brisbane now, from what I hear from the 70s, when the Saints and the Go-Betweens in the 80s when they started, is a completely different city. You know, it's more liberated than what it was. It was a country town which was very well run by the police. It was a police state. You know, I mean, you couldn't do shows. But so you know, although I think that there's too much emphasis put on a small amount of bands. Myself, from a record label, I'll be riding that pony as far as we can take it. That we're going to be using Robert Forster's name as much as possible, and it would probably bear more testament overseas dropping his name than what it would in Australia. Australia has an issue of what they call the tall poppy syndrome. I mean, you get so high within the market, and all of a sudden you get cut down.
And so the go-betweens bands like the Trivids and that, they went over there and did it. You know, that way they built up English audiences, and European audiences and that, and that's what I see that bands like Texas Tea and Vegas Kings are doing as well. So.
Well,
do you have any advice for young musicians? Who are
Make
really
sure you
interested.
have a job as well as working in the industry.
Yeah.
As well.
Don't think of it as a full-time job.
Yeah.
Don't give up your day job.
Yep. Be happy if you can get about 6 to 8 hours sleep a night or something like that. What else?
Just enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
That's it. It's entertainment. I think a lot of musicians take themselves too seriously. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot more fun than a full-time job, but in the same sense, you need money to live.
Yeah.
You have to put food in your mouth, and you go on tour in Australia. On average, when I take a band on, we usually lose $500 to $1,000 for every tour that we do. And I'm talking bands. The bands that we have on the label are actually selling units, but the tyranny of distance and the lack of an audience, it doesn't help. And understand, I suppose, your income streams. One beauty about Australia, and I think that Australia is unique, and I think maybe Canada and a couple of other territories, is the government, hate them as much as you want, are willing to help. We have a great grant opportunities for bands and musicians and artists across the board, and you understand the bureaucracies of government and grants. You'll be amazed how much money there is out there. Not to make, but to help survive.
and is that just Queensland, or is that across the
No,
country?
I think Queensland is pretty close to the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah, definitely.
Western Australia again is very strong on their local band music community, or for that matter for their entertainment community. Other states are lagging, but I think they're realising that there is talent, and it's not about the bands that were big 20 years ago that what radio are playing now. There's a big scene below, and there's still kids out there playing guitars, playing drums.
There always will be. Yeah.
And there always will be.
That's exactly.
But
Go on.
I was going to say, and also don't forget, I say this to all the bands, don't forget your family and don't forget your friends. And I put family before your friends. They're probably not the easiest income stream, but your family and your friends want to see you succeed. Why don't you ask them for $100? Simple as that.
Even if you're not in a band, can you do that?
Well, you can give it a go. I ask my wife every week, and I have $100. Doesn't get me anywhere, but still ask.
Yeah, I was just basically going to say, just stay positive, be really, always passionate and enthusiastic, and stick to your guns. Little things will happen. I never could have imagined that I'd be working with someone like Simon, who I've always looked up to. When I'd go into Skinny's Records, probably pester him about, do you have this such and such release or whatever kind of thing. Now we've been able to work on projects because I've stuck to my guns. You build partnerships, and you just got to keep rolling with it and adapting, and but it's good fun.
Yeah, believe in your community.
Yeah.
Okay.